Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dynamics Fortnite Fridays.
Am I supposed to say something here?
Yeah, this
I'm
is
just
your turn, Danny.
okay. I'll let you fill it in because I don't remember. Um,
Yeah, Dan's tagline is always where we cover everything Dynamics, great and small, or something to that
Perfect,
effect. Yeah.
perfect.
So
Well,
as
no,
you can
thanks for.
see, we have another Dan and joining us today. So welcome, Danny Freeman. First time as a behind the camera or a front of the camera guy. So tell us a little
Yeah,
bit
it's
about
great.
yourself, Danny.
So, Danny Freeman, I am a solution engineer, Dynamics, BizApps world. Been at Microsoft 3 years now. And then prior to that, I was at a few partners and an end user, but I've been in the Dynamics world for probably about 14 years. Got a couple
Awesome.
kids, live in Alpharetta, Georgia. So, yeah, pretty excited. Love the team and excited to kind of join the group in the Fortnite Fridays.
Well, we're glad to have you. So this is fun. So you know, probably anyway, that the shtick is we always start the show with a bit of a dad joke repertoire. They're always bad, but that's what we do. So what do you got for me?
All right, so mine are usually really horrible. At least I thought this one through because I have two little girls,
Uh-huh.
and they're usually just horrendous. But why did the man get fired from the orange juice factory?
They put the squeeze to him?
Couldn't concentrate.
Oh, he
All the
couldn't call.
juices must have been too distracting. So that's my.
Yeah.
I've had so many other bad ones. So this will be fantastic. So what about yourself, Bart?
All right, all right. So why actually, let me see. I gotta start phrasing it from the beginning, somewhat right anyway. So why do seagulls generally fly over oceans and other seas?
I have no earthly idea.
Because if they flew over the bays, they'd be bagels.
Wow.
Isn't that great?
Wow, that was fantastic. Honestly, I'm gonna have to tell this to my 7-year-old daughter so she gets a joke with her every day in her lunchbox. So that's
Perfect.
perfect. I'll add it.
That is a lunchbox worthy one. There you go.
It
Well,
definitely is.
let's jump in and talk about something people probably actually want to hear about.
I'm good.
So I don't think I shared the screen. I hit window by mistake. Let's just share the whole screen. There we go. So, with what's new in Power Platform, the very first thing isn't really Power Platform related, it's more DFF related. And for anyone who does pay attention to our website, hopefully that's all of you, that DynamicsFortniteFridays.com actually got decommissioned by Microsoft. So I have replaced it with DynamicsFortniteFridays.PowerAppsPortals.com, using a little Power Platform asset to host the web content of our show. So please visit the new website. When I post things onto LinkedIn and X, they will be referencing the new website from now on. So please use that and advertise it to your friends. Also, thought I'd give a shameless plug for the Power Platform Conference that has now been scheduled from October 28th through 30th. I believe it's going to be in Vegas again, and you can register at the link here, the aka.ms/ppcc 2025. So go enjoy that. That's got all kinds of great stuff for Power Platform aficionados. Will be talked about and probably even announced at that conference. I also thought I'd give one more little plug. I talked about last show that the Wave 2 of 2025 preview was coming soon for most environments in North America, and it is now available. So if you want to start testing that out in some of your non-production environments and see what some of those new features do, flip them on and you should be able to test. All right, now to the actual content. So I last show talked about an article that I found that was really good theory about the kind of instructions or master prompts for your agents. And now there is a part two that goes a little bit past just theory and gives specific guidelines and considerations to talk about and kind of what to do more specifically, and even some summary output formats and all kinds of good stuff to talk through. So look at that in some detail. And then there is also part 3 of the series where we get to more tactical, tangible things, including when you scroll down this one, there's an actual template starting here with the title goal and going all the way down to example outputs. And it's a great place to just grab that, save it away somewhere, and every time you start a new agent, you can drop that into the instructions and then fill in the various sections that have been put into this master template. And you've been given the theory and the practical guidance in those other 2 posts of how to work with it. So I think that's a fantastic set of assets that have been put together and wanted to call them out. Next one, for Copilot Studio, one of the things that happens now that generative orchestration is kind of the new de facto standard for how you make agents using the more generative AI capabilities is that the plan that the AI uses to orchestrate filling out the needed steps and calling the right tools and looking at the appropriate knowledge or handing off to an MCP server or another agent, that plan is actually really, really important. And when we start this, it gets a little bit philosophical and we start talking about how we believe, what we believe, and is it justified or not? Well, that's just kind of background to say, when we're looking at that plan in Copilot Studio, getting the right answer is important, and that's kind of the belief itself. But is it justified? In other words, did the plan actually call the right steps and look at the right information and hand off to the right knowledge or MCP servers or everything the way you had envisioned as the maker of that agent? And if it orchestrates correctly, then you know you can trust it, especially if you can do this multiple times with multiple other sample prompts and you can kind of prove it. And this article is all about how to use Copilot Studio Kit to validate that the actual plan is taking the kind of declarative steps that you would like it to in order to come up with whatever the response that's being generated is. So that's a pretty helpful thing to think about. Am I able to put these tests together and then validate that my plan is in fact doing the right stuff? So use Copilot Studio Kit for that. Follow this article. Pretty cool stuff. Power Pages. Inside of Power Pages Maker portal, there is now a security assistant. So you click on the security tab over to the left, and then there is this security agent assistant that will actually scan your entire site every so often and just proactively suggest things that you can be doing to make your site more and more secure. So really helpful. We're getting more and more autonomous things going on all the time, and that is a new one. Copilot Studio had lots of things that came to fruition in July, and we get a nice summary article now every month, kind of the way we do in Power Apps World, although Clay Wiesner didn't get his out for July yet, so I'm anticipating the Power Apps July summary will come out for next show. But in Copilot Studio, we talked last show about the new NLU Plus capabilities, so nice that that got called out again. We also called out the ability to hand off to Fabric data agents as a natively supported thing in Copilot Studio, so it was great they called that out. This search capability is actually quite cool. I didn't know when you were in the Maker portal of Copilot Studio that Control-J brought up this search and could let you find any asset that was part of your agent, no matter what tab it lived in. And I think that's going to be super helpful for agents, or for agent makers, I should say. This data labeling is really a Dataverse thing, but because your Copilot Studio agents are essentially Dataverse assets, all aspects of them are there, kind of the way Power Pages, all aspects are there. And a lot of the data that you probably are going to want to surface in your Copilot Studio agent come from Dataverse. That talking through this purview data mapping labeling capabilities, and that if it's been set up for Dataverse, and Dataverse is one of your sources of information, kind of regardless of how it is actually used, and the new Dataverse MCP server is fantastic, by the way, that labeling and rules is adhered to in the runtime to make sure that it will, mask data or whatever else it needs to do based on the rules that you put into Purview as your agent executes. On these admin center enhancements, the per agent message capacity has been talked about for a while now, and I think I've even kind of brought it up on the show. I still can't find it in my edition of the PPAC, so I'm just assuming it's coming soon still, even though it got called out as something that launched in July. If anybody knows where to find it, I would love for you to reach out to me directly and tell me where I'm not clicking in my version of the PPAC in order to do this per agent capacity management. But at some point, I'm sure I'll get it figured out, whether it's just not there and it will land, or if I'm just not doing it right, somebody will correct me at some point. This also is important that M365 Admin Center now has an agents and connectors page where you can look at both connectors and agents in one interface. This is all the stuff that's not in Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio is still PPAC, but everything else in the kind of agent builder experience and the SharePoint agents and the M365 kind of pre-built agents are all there. And then lastly, in the Power Platform API, which can be called directly from Power Apps or Power Automate or whatever else you're doing in the Power Platform using the Power Platform Admin V2 connector, there are now actions in it for quarantining and unquarantining bots or agents. So being able to find an agent and use the either PowerShell or that API through the connector, or however you like to call APIs, is open to you, but the API now supports quarantining and unquarantining agents, so take advantage of that. In analytics world, one of the biggest things is this ROI analysis. So right in the Copilot Studio Maker portal, you can jump into analysis, and one of the things it can help you do is calculate what kind of ROI this agent will bring based on what it does. And you have to give it a few inputs so that it can actually calculate based on what you used to do and how much you think that cost versus how much this one is. But it's really helpful to be able to help justify what you're building. So that's the main points that I wanted to call out on what's new in Copilot Studio. Next one is Dataverse column prompts. I believe I talked about this either last show or the show before as something coming. Well, it's now here. And this is a pretty nice article that talks through various ways that you might use these prompt columns, like customer support scenarios or content creation scenarios, doing some analysis on your data and just having that available to you, doing some workflow automations. There's quite a few different either videos or documentation about all of this, but essentially in Dataverse, right in a column, you just call a prompt column and it brings up the prompts UI for you to analyze attachments, analyze text coming from other tables or entities. As long as you can define where the data is coming from, probably other parts of Dataverse, but wouldn't absolutely have to be, that will just run in the background and fill out that column with whatever your prompt is instructing this to put in there. Might be a single word, might be a whole paragraph. You get to decide how you're having the prompt analyze whatever it's needing to do and just insert that into the column. So prompt columns. Another helpful hint I found out on a LinkedIn post is if you have ever worked with your Copilot agent and you wanted to be able to prompt the end user to upload a file at some point in that conversation, and that you wanted to be able to pass that file into either an agent flow or Power Automate to do something with that file, analyze it, run it through a prompt, whatever it is that you wanted to be able to do, that this is a nice set of instructions of once you're on the right version, which should be rolled out to pretty much everybody by now, but double check that you have at your fingertips some new capabilities in Copilot Studio to make that much easier than it used to be. And it's pretty well documented, not very hard to follow, but really helpful documentation from Remy. So thank you for posting that. Most people probably saw the announcements that was just yesterday that OpenAI announced GPT-5, and GPT-5 has kind of like auto tuning to be able to like call a super fast, easy model for simple questions and to actually understand when it needs to do deep reasoning and call the appropriate under the covers deeper reasoning model when that needs to happen. Well, that has been made available in Copilot Studio and in the prompts area for both the whole agent orchestration. So that's pretty amazing that you can actually do full agent orchestration now with GPT-5 in either the auto mode, or you can just say, nope, this agent all the time with what I'm asking you to do, I need to always use deep reasoning. You can specify that. And getting right into the prompt studio where you're just doing a prompt curation that you can see we've got GPT-5 in both the reasoning and the chat formats here as well. So lots of capabilities to start playing with the brand new model that just came out yesterday already in our low-code tools. Again, preview, experimental, don't take it to production, but awesome that we're seeing it right away. Dataverse got some new security tools. So this first one I had not seen yet. And when you do column level security, you can put regex controls in there to put masking rules that you define in place for those secured fields. I think that's actually really cool. And there's some nice instructions, I believe, maybe it wasn't linked to right in this article, but I did actually find in an article out on Learn the instructions for exactly how to go do all of this stuff. Another one, I think we have mentioned app access control, that NPPAC. One of the things you can control in the security tab is whether an app is allowed to be run from within an environment. So you can actually have apps there that you can specify can't be run. So that's actually a nice thing that you've got some of that control with some of the apps that Microsoft might throw in there, or that other agent or the people build out there that you're like, ooh, once I see this, that's not going to get run. You can just turn it off. Another thing, for all of the views in like a model-driven app that get managed as metadata of Dataverse anyway, that one of the things that you can now do is assign views to security roles so that you don't have to see all of those out of the box views. Even though you're in one of the native apps of Microsoft, you didn't have to go create a whole custom app to do this, but you can now assign this to a security role and only show the relevant views to people in a certain role so that they get a much more streamlined experience. That's there now. This C2 system users is a pretty specific things for Power Pages, but it's nice to know that you can use filtered views for those Power Pages C2 users. And there we go. That was where the link came from that I actually followed, was clear down at the bottom of the article. So thanks for putting this one together, Paul. I think anything related to better security and different ways to control that in the Dataverse world is always helpful. I did find two other things just in the M365 admin logs that have relevance, I think. One of them is that if you are a Snowflake customer, that one of the ways that we can interact with Snowflake that is relatively new is that you can now use a virtual table in Dataverse and connect it up to Snowflake. So you can let Snowflake be the source, but represent that in Dataverse as a table for people doing model-driven app things, or maybe even Canvas app things, that it's easier to just work with the Dataverse APIs, or maybe that you're wanting to expose that on a Power Pages site and have that Snowflake data be something you expose. Whatever your use cases are, getting it into Dataverse does open up some possibilities, and that connector is now there in preview. Another thing that I had not known until I saw this article is that in Copilot Studio, by the end of this month, we will have general availability on the newest version of adaptive cards, so that you won't be on kind of some of those previous versions, which are the only ones that were supported before, but these new ones will have all kinds of new capabilities like carousels and charts and more advanced layouts. And just knowing that we're kind of keeping up with that advancement that's going on in the adaptive cards dev world, allowing those shortly in Copilot Studio agents is going to be another helpful thing. Those adaptive cards, we're putting UI in front of what the users are doing, is always a helpful thing in some situations. Next one. So for a little while in the Power Platform Admin Center, we've had a preview feature that allows you to connect various parts of the Power Platform directly to Azure Application Insights. And that's been there the longest for just like Dataverse. But there's also one for Power Automate and watching trigger events and flow runs and action executions and looking at all that detail in App Insights. There's also one for the Dynamics 365 Contact Center. So when you go choose that one, this article talks about all the various things you might go do with all of that data that's being logged when you turn that on, plus a few things that you might go do directly in Azure, with, especially if you're using ACS as your call handling platform, that will add to what you're logging directly through that output. So if you are using telephony and you want some of these rich insights, go turn it all on. Go see what you get. It's in preview still, but it's a pretty helpful blog to look at all of that stuff. And then the last thing is in our Dynamics Contact Center, and I think this shows up in a plain CCAS one as well, that in the admin console for that, there is now a new thing on the home page that we call the Agent Hub. But when you hop into the Agent Hub, it's all about how to look at both the pre-built agents that are now showing up in our contact center type environments that you can understand what's there and put new controls on and monitor and those kind of things. So learn what's there and then help you think through rollout plans for some of the things that maybe are available but aren't turned on by default, or things like that that you might want to go build on planning those rollouts, and then measuring whether they're effective and affecting your KPIs the right way. So nice that this Agent Hub has been built and is part of our tooling. So I think that finally runs through all of the things that I have captured over the past 2 weeks for Power Platform and customer engagement tooling. I'm going to hand it over to you, Danny, to roll with the rest of our news.
I got it. I really, really appreciate it. Hard to follow that up. No, but that was great information. So what I want to kind of cover today is just some of the new features that have been released in the project area, and then we'll talk about some of the supply chain, and then I'll show some examples of some of the cool features that have dropped with Copilot and agents and things like that as well. So what we'll do is kind of walk through the first iteration of what's new in August of 2025. So obviously in here, there's been some dual write map updates. So it goes in and shows, hey, that for sales allows you to manage multiple addresses for accounts, adds the calendar control, some really cool things that are in here, some date flexibility and as well. Also with Project Ops, there's a lot of these quality updates, right? So there's some bugs or some other things that have been captured. So note that on here, we have some of the links that are in here, and I'll kind of show those type of things that have been updated. But this is a good area to come look and say, hey, I've had this issue. I've put that bug in. I kind of want to know, what's happened with it. So that's just basically for kind of the dual write aspect of this. Then we start getting into what in the core has changed. So again, similar to what you saw on the dual write, right? We've added added the calendar control on the calendar templates, updated some task progress using scheduled APIs, and then just kind of to import the project experience. So as you could just go through there and look at it, and then you've got the time agent to come in and adjust some of the grid information. Again, same thing with the quality updates. Again, a good place to see that, hey, I've had this outstanding bug. Let me go in there and take a look at it. So now we'll get into kind of my favorite, everything that's come across on 45. So one of the things I want everybody to kind of understand is take a breath. We are releasing so much information, right? So as people who live and die in biz apps and F&O, we're having to learn the Copilot, having to learn some low code, having to learn a lot of this functionality that drops in feature management. So we're going to try and help you along that journey to go, hey, we haven't seen what this thing can do. Can you kind of show us, tell us about it? Because a lot of times you may not even know. So as we start going through here, we'll look and see some of the highlighted features that are on here. So if you have not had a chance, in 44, quality management was released, right? This was IP that was purchased from Alithya. I used to work at Alithya, and that quality management is a really solid addition. There's some really cool features. Please go in there, take a look at that. What was added now is some quality control with that acceptance sampling, right? So this gives you a little bit more flexibility to sample a lot of your products when either A, you're receiving the goods in, or if on the production line, or if you're sending your product out, you want to be able to do those quality controls throughout the whole entire process. Also, kind of a big one is the lean manufacturing for planning optimization. That has been dropped in, and that's a big addition that was brought in as well. We see, look, one of the other things too is what was added was the ability to add the external item identifier when you're searching it. So when you're putting that order in, you're like, all right, cool, I want to search by their number, the end user, because a lot of times when you're getting POs from a customer, you can just enter their number now and it gives you that option. But you want to go into feature management to kind of do that. One of the other things, and actually big thing, is that the warehouse management app has completely changed. Where the code behind it has been, previous is getting deprecated in some respect, but we're getting brand new functionality. It's going to give us a little bit more functionality to work and react. So if we look on here is the new app, that's the React, and it's going to give us a lot more flexibility to add features and things inside of here. It's going to look very similar to everybody, but you're going to have a lot more control of what you can do inside of here. You can change colors. You have the options to do a lot of that. So if you get a chance, go ahead and download that in your maybe your sandbox. Get used to it. So at some point down the line that you'll be prepared and ready and understand the changes that are done on with that. As we go through here, some of the things that that feature enhancements that have been done, constantly adding this. So if you are a functional consultant and you need to come in and look, this is a good area to come in and look and say, hey, how do I find out what's coming new? Maybe it's you're looking and you want to extend something, but you're like, oh, is that feature coming? So take a look at a lot of these and it'll kind of help you. It's adding some enhanced numpad for control for the production floor execution interface. That's something with that production floor execution interface. The product group's adding quite a bit of functionality in there to where you're on the floor now, and it's going to be a lot easier to use that execution interface doing an everyday job, reporting is finished and reporting your labor and such. So that's going to be some of the cool things that come across as well. These are the things that were preview, but now they're GA. If you're not aware of this approved customer list, it was my absolute favorite thing when I was working with Alithya. Was it's similar to like the approved vendors, but it allows a person entering that order to go, hey, these are the customers I always want to deal with, and here's their items. It's a feature that I think a lot of people should take a look at. Again, the links are in here, but it's one of my favorite things, and it's a game changer when, instead of having to search all those items for your customer, you can just go in and grab that approved customer list, and it grabs those items right in. Again, quality management features, quite a bit of features that were added to that. Another thing in here we look at is the ability to link transfer order lines with sales order lines. That's always been something that kind of was missing, but take a look at that. That's kind of a feature that can help with that traceability later on down the road to do any kind of auditing and doing anything else in the system. We look at the dispense management as well. Another thing that is preview, ability to kind of look through that. Go ahead and take a chance, look at that. One of the other things that you should, when looking at all the features that come across, is what's on and you have no choice, right? So I think that's the things that you should take a look at. Enable warehouse items and inventory visibility. A lot of these things that were optional are now on by default. So just take a look at those. I won't go through every single one of them. And then we'll walk through this. And then features that are removed from feature management. In the previous release, we got rid of the one thing that I think everybody wanted was the rename the product. I have to just let that go. I got to let it go. It's one of my favorite things. It hurt my heart. Like I was on so many situations in that rename field. I understand why, but it just everyone listening and has done implementations truly understands exactly what's going on with that. But take a look at this. A lot of this, if you're going through projects or showing any of this to anybody, and you're like, oh, this is here. Take a look. It's possibly been deprecated. One of the other aspects that I want to show on here is the ability now with Copilot, right? So Bart talked about all the Copilot things that are going on, but as D365 people, we've been like, no, I don't want any of that. Oh, I love it. With Copilot Studio, we have all these agents that are coming. Little birdie might have told me a sales agent might be coming in the very near future, right? So these are things that will help streamline the everyday process for all the workers, right? It'll help and allow. What I see this happening is it's becoming kind of an assistance to be able to give people back their ability to speak to their customers, to be able to give better customer service, to be able to do their job even better. That's what I love about these agents that I see. I'm going to show my my D365 instance, and I just want to highlight an area here. Inside of D365, inside of Copilot Studio, you have the ability to go in and add features inside of Copilot Studio to add the Dataverse MCP connection. And those automatically have a lot of those endpoints like find released orders, find inventory, and that list is going to continually grow. What I want everybody to understand on here is give that a try in your UAT environment. Give that a try in your dev environment. As you see here, all I did for me to get this result was just go in to my Copilot Studio in my environment. And I went in and I said, hey, add MCP. Simple. I'm not massively technical. And I was able to get the results you're seeing on your screen. I said, can you just give me the total inventory for that product? And it gave me site, warehouse, and it gave me how many units, and that's accurate. It also, one of the things that I've been working on as well is, hey, can you email me or my customer the total? This is just simple stuff. I want you to just get introduced to it to understand, where this can go. Also, there's agents that we're creating to be able to create a purchase requisition, and it's using that MCP connection with all those endpoints that we don't have to put code in there. No code is needed to create any of that. So just understand it's coming, it's here. So try and introduce yourself into all those different avenues of trying all those things out. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me or anybody else on the call, because I think the more people we have using this, the better we will be informed to talk through with our customers. But I think that's kind of all I really had today to kind of cover over everything. Again, if you have any questions, my first time on the show, so I'm spitballing everything now at this point. So But no, that's all I really kind of had, and I really appreciate everybody kind of listening in to the wild world of D365 Biz Apps and Copilot.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and joining me today, Danny, to go over some of those updates. We're going to
Yeah.
welcome you back as a guest anytime. Don't
Yeah.
know yet in a fortnight whether it'll be this Danny or the other Danny that I usually deal with for these things, but one way or the other, we'll be back on the air in 2 weeks, and I hope everyone has a great fortnight between now and then. See you soon.